Everyone always thought the billionaire's only son had been born completely deaf. That was the story from the very beginning. Doctors said it. Specialists confirmed it. His father built an entire world around it. Year after year, nothing ever changed. No son ever got through. There were therapies, expensive devices, routines built on silence. A whole life designed around what Leo couldn't do. And for the longest time, it seemed like nothing ever would. But things started to shift when a new maid named Julia arrived at the mansion. She wasn't loud, wasn't pushy, and she definitely wasn't interested in fixing Leo. She was just present. She moved around quietly, noticing little things, like the way Leo always sat in the same patch of sunlight, or how he held his old stuffed animal a little tighter whenever footsteps echoed in the hall. Julia had her own heartbreak, her own reasons for craving peace. So maybe that's why she understood something the others didn't. Instead of filling the silence, she respected it. This mansion, let me tell you, it wasn't a happy place. Richard Wakefield, Leo's dad, used to have a family. He used to laugh, used to throw parties, used to smile for the camera. That all ended with a helicopter crash that took his wife and left him alone with a son who never spoke, never smiled, never showed the slightest reaction to sound or speech. Richard did what he could: flashing lights, vibrating alarms, all kinds of high-tech gear, but it never made a difference. Leo just seemed to live in a different world. And honestly, Richard started to feel like a ghost in his own house, haunting the same empty rooms, hoping for a miracle. Every day was the same. Breakfast in silence. Leo ate slowly, never looking up. Richard told stories in the living room, using gestures and pictures, hoping to spark something, anything. They took quiet walks around the garden. Richard talked about the sky, the trees, the world outside. Leo trailed behind, lost in thought. At night, Richard would sit by Leo's bed, telling one last story about a silent boy who could change the world. But Leo's face stayed blank. Still, unreachable. That's how it went for years. The silence filled everything. Not just the house, but Richard's heart. He kept old photos, his wife's favorite cup, little reminders of a life that felt long gone. Sometimes, just to hear another voice. He'd talk to himself about the weather, the groceries, or some random memory. But through all that sadness, he kept hoping. He believed if he just stayed patient and loving, maybe, one day, Leo would find a way to reach back. So when Julia arrived, she brought something new, not noise, not energy, just a kind of calm. She respected the quiet, moving gently from room to room, never pushing, never intruding. She noticed how Leo always held the same toy, how he seemed drawn to soft lights and corners. And instead of trying to change him, she just let him be. She'd tidy up around him, leave a folded blanket nearby, set out a cup of water, maybe open a picture book to a random page. She wasn't looking for gratitude, she just wanted him to know someone saw him. But then, little things started to happen. Julia dropped a wooden spoon one day. It barely made a sound, but Leo flinched, just a tiny movement, but real. Another time, she tapped the broomstick on the kitchen floor and saw Leo's eyes flick up for a split second. She began to wonder if Leo was completely deaf. Why was he reacting at all? So she started quietly testing, walking heavier on the floor, tapping furniture, always watching to see what would happen. She noticed Leo responded to certain vibrations, certain low sounds, more than others. Julia didn't jump to any conclusions. She just kept watching, collecting these tiny clues. The more she paid attention, the more she saw. Leo wasn't shut off from the world. He was just tuned into a different frequency, maybe feeling vibrations, or sensing the movement around him in a way no one else understood. One afternoon, Julia found an old wireless earbud tucked away in a drawer. It gave her an idea. She played a soft melody through it and gently placed it near Leo's ear. At first, nothing. But then Leo's eyes widened a little. His head tilted like he was searching for something. Julia's heart just about stopped. Over the next few days, she tried again nature sounds, soft music, even just background noise. Each time, Leo responded in small ways, a blink, a turn of the head, sometimes even a tiny smile. Julia didn't tell Richard right away. She wanted to be sure. Meanwhile, she started digging through some old medical supplies and found bottles of medicine with Leo's name on them. The more she researched, the more concerned she got these drugs had side effects, and some of them could cause hearing loss, especially if used long-term. Suddenly, Julia realized nobody had ever questioned Leo's diagnosis. Everyone just assumed he was born deaf. Finally, one day, Julia sat down with Leo and played a gentle song through the earbud. She watched him carefully, and then, in the quietest whisper, Leo said, "I think I heard Mommy." It was barely a sound, barely a word, but Julia heard it. For the first time, she saw the possibility that Leo had always been there, trapped behind a wall nobody even knew existed. The truth came out when Richard caught Julia using the earbud with Leo. At first, he was furious, yelling that Leo was deaf and that Julia had no right. But then Leo did something he'd never done before. He ran to Julia, hugged her, and spoke. I heard. It was just 2 words, but it shattered everything Richard believed. He listened as Julia explained a reaction she'd seen, the medications she found, the research she'd done. Richard realized, maybe for the first time, that he'd been so lost in grief that he never questioned the story he'd been told. They stopped the medication. Leo's responses grew stronger, clearer. He started to smile, to move to music, even to speak short words. The mansion slowly filled with sound again, music, laughter, the soft chatter of daily life. Julia and Richard worked as a team now. They found new doctors, dug into Leo's medical history, even uncovered evidence that Leo's doctor had used him as a test subject for unapproved drugs. It wasn't easy. There was an investigation, a court case, months of stress. But Leo's progress was undeniable. He started school, learned to speak in short sentences, discovered a love for music. Julia officially adopted him, and together, she, Richard, and Leo became a real family. Their home, once full of shadows and silence, became a place of laughter, learning, and hope. And one day, at a school event, Leo stood up in front of everyone and said, "The first sound I heard came from her heart." He pointed to Julia. There wasn't a dry eye in the house. So that's the story. From silence, to sound, to a life finally lived out loud. If you've made it this far, I appreciate you sticking around. Let me know in the comments what part hit you the hardest. And don't forget to subscribe. Until next time.